Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the YouTube audiobook series for The Forbidden Truth, written by Abby Matthias. I am Darius, and today I am introducing Chapter 3. If you missed Chapter 2, link is in the description below, or use the playlist. You can listen to all the chapters that have been released so far. But if you are all caught up and ready to go, we will continue on with Chapter 3, Halloween Mayhem.
As Darius was startled and sobbing, I stood in front of him holding his hand. I didn't know why he was acting the way he was. I knew he was sleeping when I woke up. That's why I decided to take a shower. Despite my relaxing rainfall, when I suddenly heard my demon calling out for me to make sure I wasn't dead, I knew something was wrong. Yet I didn't dare try and ask him about it. I didn't think he would be willing to elaborate upon the topic. He was crying and shedding tears right in front of my very eyes. If he had some sort of nightmare or something that made him break down this much, why would he want to speak to me about it? So I stayed by him until he composed himself. It took him about 5 minutes, and when he was level-headed, he broke the silence.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened to me. I was a complete mess.
Darius, it's okay. I could obviously tell something was wrong. You don't have to bottle it. Not around me, I said, reassuring his actions. His head tilted downward and he caught a glimpse of himself. He was only wearing his underwear along with the spiked collar and cuffs Satan bestowed upon him. So I assumed, based on his reaction, that he finally saw his attire and stood up disappointed. He looked at his arms and legs and spoke with shame.
Oh my goodness. I'm not dressed in proper. I'll be right back.
And he quickly disappeared from sight. However, that didn't stop me from speaking to him in the head. You don't have to be embarrassed or ashamed. You were in a panic. It's okay. Thank you for being considerate, though. I didn't get a response back, but I hoped I brought him some comfort and peace. After about a minute of silence, he appeared once more within my kitchen wearing his red shirt with the wave texture, his black pants and shoes, and freshly brushed hair that made him look presentable. His shirt was neatly tucked in, and his sleeves were precisely rolled up to his elbows. He stood with almost perfect posture, and looked like a different version of himself compared to the sight I took in a few minutes ago. It was a pleasant sight to see, which I never thought I would say about a demon. Besides the point, after things died down, he spoke aloud again.
So why are you dressed like you're going somewhere?
I'm not going anywhere, I said. But someone is coming to the house.
Who? Don't tell me it's Scarlet.
He asked sternly. No, it's Damien.
Oh, I see.
He wanted to make sure I was okay, so we are taking today to hang out and vent.
Whatever floats your boat. I'm glad he wants to talk about it, though. I figured he wasn't gonna for a while.
Why wouldn't he? I asked curiously.
You saw him last night. He was outraged by what Scarlet did. So raged that he even took her aside into a different room.
Wait, what? I said, stunned. I never saw him do that. What do you mean?
Well, of course you didn't see it. You were being crowded at that point by the girls at the party. But I saw Damien pull her away from the crowd and into the hallway. I don't know what happened between them, but that's why he was walking back to us when we started to leave.
Oh, Well, I didn't know that. Thanks. After that, we kind of stood in silence. I didn't know what else to say about it. The only thing that I allowed myself to do was think upon it. I know the first thing some people may think would be that he slapped her in private. I knew he would never do that. He had morals of not hitting women, and Scarlett would have exposed him as fast as possible. Plus, she didn't have any bruises or red marks upon her body, so I knew for a fact he didn't physically touch her besides pulling her aside. But what did he talk to her about? I mean, he probably yelled at her for her actions, but why wouldn't he just yell right in front of everyone? She hated to be exposed in front of crowds. Yet maybe Damien knew that, and that's why he pulled her aside. Although that may be the case, I knew one thing was for certain. Damien would seriously consider not being her friend anymore because of last night. I didn't want that for anyone, but I think this needs to try and be resolved with a group discussion at some point before any drastic measures are taken.
What time is he coming?
Darius asked, forcing me to end my reflections. Around noon. I'm cooking lunch for him and I. Would you like something to eat before that?
No. I'm good. I'm not really hungry. But thanks for offering.
Yeah, no problem. With that all said and done, I got out some pots and pans to start cooking. I cooked a lovely meal of spaghetti with meat sauce along with some garlic breadsticks. I wanted it to be ready for when Damien got to the house. While I was cooking, though, Darius and I continued with our casual small talk like school, work, or even funny stories about ourselves. Well, the last one was more involving me than him. But it was still conversation to fill the time and silence. Mom was at work, and Dad was at the farm fixing tractors. So I was glad Darius was able to accompany me while I waited for Damien. Shortly after I took the breadsticks out of the oven, Damien pulled into the driveway, so I immediately started making him a plate. As he walked up the stairs, my two Pomskis and Chocolate Lab met him at the door to gain his attention. The little two jumped up on his legs while the big one huffed and puffed with excitement. After a little bit of belly rubs and butt scratches for each dog, he finally came to me and grabbed my hips.
Hello, my love,
he said gently. I started to feel my face blush a little, but I responded with, "Hi, babe. How are you today?"
I'm okay. Better now that I'm here with you.
Well, I'm glad I could brighten your day. Lunch is ready, so we can dig in. Here's your plate, I stated, gesturing to his newly full plate of food. He looked at me astonished and chuckled a bit. Then, with one swift move, he dipped me while holding me in his arms.
You are one hell of a woman, Abby. I'm so happy to have you as a girlfriend.
After that, we began to make out a little. This wasn't just a peck on the lips like the greeting kiss. He was starting to hypnotize me again with his spectacular affection. I willingly kissed him back gently and grabbed his soft cheek. He leaned me back up again and pulled my hips into him. Of course, he was careful, but I knew he was showing his adoration. However, as we kissed, I started to feel unfamiliar sensations again. Just like at the dance club on our first date. I didn't know what these feelings were, but I knew they physically happened because of Damien. I never felt this way about anyone else. It made my stomach tie in knots and my whole body feel hot. Yes, these physical changes confused me, but on the inside, they terrified me. I didn't know how to react or deal with them. These emotions weren't your average happy or sad moods. This was different, and I didn't want to push them further to see where they would lead me. So I gently broke the kiss between Damien and I and came up with an excuse. You're very sweet, but our food is going to get cold if you keep this going.
No, you are absolutely right. Plus, I'm starving. I haven't eaten yet today. Let's dig in.
So he grabbed his plate and we sat at the dining room table. As we ate, Damien let me rant about school while he talked about his work. He was starting to move up in the world and found a different place to work at. Not only would he be in a higher position, he would get a nice pay raise with benefits. I was happy to hear his life was exceeding and evolving into something wonderful. He seemed so enthused about his new opportunity, while I had nothing achieving to show him besides school projects. I mean, don't get me wrong, he seemed to have enjoyed me talking about them, yet I just didn't really have anything else to show for my success like he did. Upon finishing our meal, he helped me clean up and washed the dirty dishes for me, even though I told him not to. So I dried them as they became clean and put them away in their proper places. Once everything was tidy again, we moved ourselves downstairs to mingle. Upon sitting on the couch, I started the conversation about last night. Last night was pretty eventful, huh?
That's just an understatement.
He said with a firm voice.
God, she's such a bitch.
Damien, I said in utter shock. He has never talked about Scarlet like that before. Well, at least in front of me.
I'm sorry, but it's true. Everything that she did last night was uncalled for. She's just a selfish prick. I can't even imagine being in Darla's shoes. She must be so sickened by the actions of that man. Oh, buddy, if you only knew the half of it.
Darius said aloud, sitting in the new recliner my parents placed next to the couch. I didn't respond to him, but I voiced my opinion to Damien. I know. She wasn't very happy about last night either. She vocalized her feelings within the car ride home. She isn't hanging out with Scarlet ever again.
Wise choice on her part. Scarlet basically said that it was okay for her to get practically raped. All because these were rich people. What a fucking gold digger.
Okay, Damien. I get it. I said, disappointed. I knew those things were true for the most part, but it was hard listening to them flow out of his mouth. Scarlet was still somewhat my friend at this point. I get she could be a handful, and some of the things she does isn't right, but I still wasn't going to stoop down on her level and start calling her names. I understand all the things that she did last night were wrong and uncalled for. I don't agree with any of her actions. However, calling her these names behind her back isn't right for you to do either, especially if she is a friend of yours.
I don't think she is, Abby.
Damien said, raising his voice a bit.
What I said about her and I not being friends was true. How can I be friends with someone who literally belittles everyone around her? All because...
And he paused himself quick. I could tell his breathing picked up from his anger, but he started taking deep breaths and calming himself down before he spoke again.
I'm sorry. You shouldn't be the one dealing with my aggression or yelling. You did absolutely nothing wrong. I love you, Abby, very much. But after what she did, I don't think it can be resolved.
After that, we sat in silence. I didn't know what else to add to the conversation anymore. I couldn't force him to stay friends with her, but yet I felt like he had more to say about it than just that. So I decided to poke around a little more while being cautious. It's okay. I know you're angry, and I thank you for correcting your tone. But there is one thing I want to talk to you about.
Okay, what is it?
There was a detail that was brought to my attention about last night. Darla said that after Scarlet yanked my wig off, you grabbed her and pulled her aside. What did you do when you were alone with her?
Abby, if you think I would...
I know you didn't cheat, I interrupted. I just want to know what happened while you two were in private. Please. I begged. As I did so, he hung his head with frustration. I could tell he was contemplating if he wanted to or not. But eventually, he sighed and asked me another question.
You really want to know?
Yes, Damien. I want to understand why you are so angry.
Okay, I'll tell you.
I adjusted myself in my seat as my curiosity grabbed a hold of me. He seemed really shy to say anything about it, but I wanted to know, even if that meant hearing things I necessarily didn't want to hear.
The most obvious thing that happened was that I harped at her about what she did to Darla. But I also scolded her about her rudeness towards you and how her charade of loving her boyfriend wasn't fooling me.
What? Wait a minute here. Why would that be important? Are you implying that she doesn't love Robert? I asked confusingly.
I know she doesn't. She's told me since their 2-year anniversary.
Then why the hell is she staying with him? She's just leading him on at this point. Damien sat in silence, holding his hands together. But after a moment, he revealed the truth.
Because she's trying to make me jealous.
I stared at him with utter shock. Why would she want to make him jealous? Who in their right mind would stay with someone they don't love just to make someone else agitated?
Oh, hell no. You can't be serious.
Darius exclaimed.
Don't tell me this bitch is jealous of you.
As he questioned the answer, he stood up out of the recliner. He looked furious, but I still couldn't respond to him. Despite his reply, Damien continued to look at me with guilty eyes, like he did something wrong. I started to get a little worried as I gazed at his expression, but after a brief pause, he finally started to explain.
Back in junior year of high school, I had very strong feelings for you, and I was scared to ask you out. I didn't tell anyone this because I didn't want people telling you or trying to hook us up for me. So I kept myself quiet and let my chances slip away because of my cowardliness. But that's besides the point. Towards the middle of that year, Scarlett started hitting on me. Her remarks were subtle at first, such as complimenting my eyes or hair. However, as time went on, they got drastically worse. Eventually, she invited me to her house saying we were all having a movie night. But yet, when I got there, you magically canceled.
I never knew about that. We never did a movie night in high school, I said, interrupting the story.
I know, and it's not like you to cancel. I should have known better. But despite that fact, I still went hoping to see you.
So what happened that night?
Well, I stayed and watched about half the movie with her. But during it, she started getting touchy and kept trying to make
moves on me.
What a little prick! She deliberately lied to his face to make him come over. Selfish much?
Darius intruded again. But you only watched half the movie, though. Did you stop her?
Yes, because she tried scratching my head to play with my hair. That's when I had enough and found out she liked me. However, I told her that I wasn't interested or felt that way towards her. She wanted to know who I liked, but all I said was a close friend of mine. So, putting two and two together, she found out that it was you. That's why her behavior changed, and why she is such an ass now.
Oh, this ain't happening. Not anymore.
Then, out of nowhere, my demon grabbed my shoulder. As that happened, I felt faint and blinked. Yet when I opened my eyes, I was suddenly standing up and stumbling from my unbalance. Once I gained it back, I saw that I was staring at my body while I was within my demon spirit. With that in mind, I instantly knew that Darius was possessing my human self, and he wasn't happy one bit. What the hell is the matter with her? That shouldn't be the reason to treat me like crap for all these years. All I wanted to do was be her friend. But all I do constantly is get bent down and fucked up the ass with her bullshit. As he said that, Damien stared at my body stunned. Almost like how I glared at him when he spoke profoundly about Scarlet. Darius was making me look like a hypocrite. Not only that, but he was making me look jealous. What happened between them was a long time ago. History that can never be changed. I needed to get him out of my body before he started saying things I didn't mean.
Darius, get out of my body right now!
I yelled. It didn't faze him, though. He kept staring at Damien as he started responding to the outburst.
I know. I'm sorry that I kept this from you. I just didn't think she would change how she acted around you.
Well, of course she did. She just can't handle rejection and envies that she doesn't have a shot with you, and I do. Everything makes sense now. You know when she first started acting like a jerk, she called me fat and ugly?
Wait a minute. Really?
Not directly, but yeah. Her and I went dress looking one weekend for prom, and I found a dress I really liked. It was a little slimmer than what I was used to, but I loved the turquoise design in it. So I tried it on and showed Scarlet. When she saw me, her face looked disgusted and said, "Well, I'm not saying you can't get it, but I don't know if this dress suits your figure and face structure. Maybe let's go with something else." So I regrettably went along with it and got that purple one instead. She bought her dress later on, and lo and behold, it was the dress I really wanted. I didn't know until prom night, and she rubbed it in my face. How the hell did he even know that? I never said anything about that incident, and never planned to. I especially wasn't going to tell my boyfriend that. Not with how defensive he gets, and given the situation with Scarlet. Yet here was my demon just spewing it out like nothing was gonna come from it. But this was somewhat shaping who I was in private with Damien. His actions were displaying a totally different personality than mine. But because of my demon's anger, Damien might think differently of me. This could ruin my relationship if he didn't contain his rage. Was it right for Scarlet to do that to me? No, of course not. But that doesn't give Darius the right to control my body and express his emotions instead of mine.
Abby, I never knew about that. I am so sorry.
It's whatever at this point. I am just done with this crap. I will not tolerate it any longer. No more getting pushed over or putting up with her attitude. She's just envious that a girl like me can end up with a guy like you.
What do you mean, a guy like me?
Are you kidding me, Damien? Darius stated, shocked. You are practically like the stereotypical dream guy every girl wants. Tall, handsome, muscular, and caring. They may want you for your body, but I want you for everything. I love your personality and your features. Everything about you drives me crazy. I've liked you for a long time as well, but I felt stuck with that dweeb of an ex. Now that I'm with you, I can't see myself with anyone else. I love you, Damien, and I can't believe you're mine.
Oh, Abby.
Damien said wistfully. Then out of nowhere, Damien lunged forward and grabbed a hold of my face. Darius quickly leaned back a little, panicked, and clenched his hands onto the couch cushion. However, my boyfriend was determined and started kissing my body passionately. As I was stuck staring at the scene, I could only think about how differently he was kissing me at this point. I couldn't quite pinpoint exactly what was so particular about it, but it made me entranced. It seemed like his kissing was faster and more heated. His breathing picked up, and his hand was traveling down my side. I was so entranced by it that my eyes were glued to the pair of them. However, as I watched, I began to feel faint and started falling to the floor. Yet before I could hit it, I suddenly felt someone on top of me and kissing my lips. But I knew exactly what happened. So now it was my turn to experience the side of Damien I never seen before.
After I said my positive comment to Damien, he looked somewhat surprised at what I said. I mean, I was just saying the truth and how Abby's body felt. I could feel her emotions rising within the body and her mindset towards the boy sitting across from her. However, his expression started to change as he began to speak.
Oh, Abby.
Then, he randomly climbed up to tower over me. I shifted myself back and braced for whatever the hell he was doing, yet I didn't have time to process everything before he grabbed my face and started to kiss me. As this was happening, I was trying really hard not to reject him or throw up. Not that there was anything wrong with his kiss. It's just I was a guy and not into this at all. But her body was certainly acting differently than my feelings. I could tell that sexual pleasure was starting to form within her body and knew things were going to go south. Maybe quite literally. So I needed to switch with Abby now before I had to bear this embarrassing moment. Abby, grab my shoulders please and switch with me. I called out to her in the head. Yet after a few seconds, I didn't feel anything but Damien continuing on with his pleasure session. So I tried again, screaming. Abby, this isn't funny. Switch with me now. Again, I got no response from her. So I took initiative and raised my arm to her and projected my red force to begin the switching process. It effectively worked, and the next thing I knew, I was back in my body wanting to wash my mouth. As I clearly saw things getting heated between Abby and Damien, I willingly decided to teleport myself to my house to have alone time and recoup myself from that experience. By touching the snake and rose marking, it teleported me to two places. Outside my home in hell, and wherever Abby was located. I have tried to see if I could teleport anywhere else with the marking, but found out I couldn't. The teleporting only worked with my protector demon role, and not for personal use. So I still walked everywhere that wasn't part of my job. But besides the point, I was teleported to the front door of my home when I paused upon the sight of it. There was a letter that was taped to my door. In red ink, it displayed my name, and I was confused as to who would have given it to me. It certainly wasn't Satan, as he would have summoned me to him or come and find me. So, with curiosity and caution, I grabbed it off my door and walked into my house. After closing my shades and locking my door again, I opened the envelope to reveal a written letter that read as follows. Darius Stone, I am giving you this message to bring warning about your upcoming future. I can't tell you who I am directly, but I can say that I want to help you in any way I can for the time being. So if you would just take the time to consider this note, horrible tragedy can be avoided. I will not ask for anything in return, but I do ask that you destroy this letter after reading its contents. If either of us get caught with this letter by the hands of the evil overlord, we can consider ourselves dead. To come straight to the point, I fear that Satan is planning an unexpected visit with you to fish for answers. Within his private office, I hear him mutter and mumble about a certain demon who is causing him strife and stress. I didn't know who this being was at first, but a fortnight ago, I heard him shout your name and slam his desk with his fists. Putting two and two together, I have come to the conclusion that you are that thorn in Satan's side. I don't know the details about your situation. However, I want to tell you to be careful as you start to interact with him in the future. Don't fall for his tricks, and certainly keep yourself in check. He is very on edge, and all I hear is bickering and shouting as he yells at his servants and workers over the smallest of things. If he wasn't that irritable before, he most certainly is now. As for which day he is coming, I have not found that out. I can only assume sooner rather than later. So prepare yourself in case this does come. Plan ahead and keep Satan off your trail. For many years, I have watched you get tortured by this monstrous creature, and I can't take it any longer. I thought if I could help you at least this once, my conscience would sleep, and some of my worries would fade away. So I beg of you, please heed this warning and do not delay. If you want what's best for you and your protector child, you will not trifle with this knowledge. I believe in you, Darius. Eventually, everything will become clear and life will be easier. Stay strong. From Anonymous Citizen of Hell. As I finished reading the letter, I grew alarmed about the information thrown at me. Satan was trying to figure things out about the partnership between Abby and I. I knew that was for certain, but yet the letter made it sound like he was almost driving himself insane from it. Obsession and greed filled his body as he continues to search for answers. But was it really that hard to find them? Was this dynamic duo containing her and I really complex to where even the highest leader couldn't figure it out? This random demon didn't know anything about the situation at hand, but I did. I remember back upon our last interaction with Satan where he warned us to find answers. Otherwise, our next visit with him wouldn't be a pretty one. That was back when he gave me these stupid wrist cuffs linked to my wrists. The day where he tortured Abby with violence and pain to try and get answers out of me. Yet I didn't have that many back then. I had some now, but not all. Although it wasn't as much as I had liked, a little information was better than none, especially given this warning about my future interaction with the head honcho. So with all this information, I decided to make a plan of attack that wouldn't tangle Abby up within it. I couldn't take the chance to not take this letter seriously. I mean, maybe that nightmare of a dead and mangled Abby actually was a vision if I didn't make the correct action. This could be a matter of life and death. So putting myself into ultra-protective mode, I started making plans, prepping myself for what was about to come.
As I kissed Damien back, I kept reflecting on his actions and emotions through his affection. His left hand was upon my waist, while his other one was holding my cheek. This was a little rougher than what I was used to, yet it wasn't like I really cared. It wasn't painful or intended to be aggressive. However, it was more lust-driven than what I have experienced. So as we were caught up in the moment, I laid myself down fully on the couch, and Damien started to follow. He continued onward as we moved, and smoothly shifted himself to tower over my body. His hand slid down my face and caressed my skin as it traveled. As his fingertips touched me lightly, they were guided down my neck and made their way to my chest area. I was shocked by this, as we never went this far before, but I couldn't really stop myself. Some sort of desire had a hold on me. I had no clue what it was or what I was even feeling at this point, but despite that, I gave him permission to proceed with this moment. As I allowed things to happen, his hand moved directly onto my left breast. My body jolted for some reason, but our kissing didn't drop. It was still going strong, and Damien didn't skip a beat. Although the affection continued, his hand started to lightly squeeze my breast. As he did so, my senses started growing more sensitive and made my body start tingling. I have very rarely felt these kinds of sensations, but I kept trying to reflect on how to describe them. My stomach was clenching, and the tingles got stronger with every second that kept passing. Some places were stronger than others, and my breathing began to pick up to match his. Embarrassing enough, this is to say, my nipple became hard and extremely hypersensitive to what was happening. All of these things adding up made my body needy and longing for something. My hips started moving on their own, while my hands started moving down to his chest. I could feel his pectorals through his shirt as I felt him press into me. My head was swarming with thoughts. Some of them were innocent, but most were becoming dirty and mischievous. Without this session, I never would have thought about these kinds of things before. I prefer not to say them, as they became extremely personal and may burst my comfort bubble. Yet I grew confused as to why these thoughts were randomly appearing in my mind. I never thought about Damien in these kinds of ways before. As a matter of fact, I never thought of anyone like this before, but somehow they came flooding into my head like there was no tomorrow. Was this a natural reaction, or was something wrong with me? How could this innocent mind fill with such perverted thoughts with a matter of 2 minutes? Before I could reflect on it anymore, we heard the side door slam to notify us someone was about to enter the house. Once we heard it, Damien scrambled himself off of me and grabbed a hold of my waist. Using his strength, he lifted me up and placed me onto his lap for some reason. I couldn't ask why he did before I found my father enter the basement with his dirty farm clothes full of grease and oil.
Oh, Damien! I didn't know you were coming over. Good to see you, young lad.
He said with a big smile upon his face.
It's good to see you too, Mr. Davis.
Damien replied back respectfully.
Come on now, Damien. No need for the formalities. Call me Thomas. Or if you really want to, call me Dad. You are practically family at this point.
Damien chuckled a little while I started to blush. My dad really took a liking to Damien ever since I met him. Yet why wouldn't he? Damien was a kind gentleman and respected his little girl. There was no reason to not like him. However, Damien spoke back, brushing my arm with his hand.
Okay, Thomas. I will remember that from here on out.
Dad displayed a huge smile after that and started to move the subject along.
Sorry that I had to come barging in. I had to come and grab a few power tools from the back room, fixing some more tractors to keep myself busy.
You're fine, Dad. It's your house. You do whatever you please.
Well,
that is very true, but I still care about intruding on other people. Speaking of intruding, how would you feel about me moving you into this room down here in the basement?
Wait, really? I asked, excited.
Yeah, I gave it some thought, and it would be good for you to have your own little living space down here. That way, we all have more privacy, and it is practically like living in an apartment. The only thing is that you would have to go upstairs to get food.
I think that would be a great idea. I would love to do that. When can I start moving things?
Today, if you really want. The walls are freshly painted because of your brother, and it is ready for use.
That's awesome! Thanks, Dad. I'll start doing that in a little while. I would hug you too, but you're a little dirty right now. I love you.
I get it, sweetheart. I love you too.
After that little moment, Dad got his tools that he needed and left the house again to work on his machinery. Once he left, Damien and I let out a sigh simultaneously. I couldn't believe how caught off guard I was. I was just trying to have a conversation with Damien before all the kissing happened. My brain couldn't wrap around the idea of him wanting to kiss me at that moment. Then, once everything started, it began to spiral out of control. Yet, I wasn't alarmed by it going down that path. My body was still aware of Damien's presence and didn't stop tingling. However, I did finally start to notice that his hands were gently gliding the inside of my thighs. As I glanced at his fingers, I felt my face getting warmer as my head became slightly clouded again. So I decided to lean myself back to have Damien support me. My body started to relax instantly as he rested his head on my shoulder. I could feel his steady breathing as his stomach kept rising and falling. Eventually, his hands traveled up to my stomach to rest. Yet, he wasn't done with the session. He moved my hair out of the way of my neck and began to kiss it. My body became sensitive again, and my stomach started to tie in knots. Only this time, everything started intensifying fast. The tingles, the knots, the longing, and the neediness. With each time his lips made contact with my skin, a jolt of unknown tingles flooded my senses. My legs started to shake and squeeze together by this strange sensation. My throat wanting to make random sounds when I had nothing coherent to say. This was hitting boundaries I didn't know if I was okay with. So I gently leaned forward again and ended everything. Now, how am I supposed to get my things down here if you're keeping me occupied? I asked teasingly, trying to hide my confusion.
Very true. I'm sorry. You're just so lovely. You bewitch me every time I see you, even when it isn't Halloween.
At that statement, we both started laughing. I thought that was a really good pun, given it was Halloween, but I still understood what he meant. He did the same thing to me without me knowing it. However, I wasn't going to push myself into territory that I wasn't comfortable with, let alone knew nothing about. So after that, we started to get to work on my room. After the afternoon turned into evening, Damien and I managed to move my entire room within a span of 5.5 hours. Obviously, there were a few shenanigans thrown in the mix, but I still moved everything to the basement. It was around 6 o'clock when he decided to go home. However, he wanted to have one last conversation before he left.
Hey, babe. You know how I said I wanted you to meet my mom sometime in November?
Yeah, of course. What about it?
Well,
He said, rubbing his neck with his hand.
I told my mom your response and she was thinking about you coming over for Thanksgiving.
Oh, really? I said in shock. I mean, I'm very flattered your mom wants to meet me, but I don't want to intrude on your holiday. Also, You know that I have Thanksgiving with my family on the actual holiday.
I know. We don't. We normally do it the weekend before. So that would be November 20th. Would that be okay?
Sure, Damien. I would love to have Thanksgiving by you.
Awesome. My mom will be so happy. Well, I should get back to her. I love you, and I'll text you later.
I love you too. And he gave me one last embrace and kiss. However, he pressed me into him as we kissed. I don't know why, but yet again, my body started to tingle. Except it started down by, well, you know. That feeling started taking over my body again and clouded my head for the third time. I didn't want to stop, but Damien pulled away and said one last thing.
Again, you're bewitching. But I need to go. I'll talk to you later.
Once that was said, I accepted his response and allowed him to leave. As my night continued on, I couldn't help but reflect on occasion about the kind of affection we displayed today. I have never gotten that far with anyone before. Kissing was the only thing I really did. Even back with Chad, I never felt the kind of emotions that I did. Never has love empowered over me and physically affected me. Not until I chose Damien as a boyfriend. Was that a good sign? What exactly was it? Another thing, whenever I recalled those passionate memories, my senses acted up. So whenever it started, I had to think about different topics to make them reset themselves. But otherwise, I had dinner with my parents and talked about future objects to buy for the basement since I would be living down there. So the time passed, and it wasn't until about 7:30 p.m. that I saw my tall red demon again. He scared the daylights out of me as I was just working on some homework, yet I was surprised that he knew where I was because of the room change. But I could definitely tell he was confused looking around at the environment, so he decided to speak upon it.
What the hell happened while I was gone?
Well, Dad told me that I could move into this spare room located in the basement. That way we can all have more privacy and I practically have a little living space of my own. So after our talk, Damien and I started moving my stuff down here.
So that was after the kissing moment on the couch.
After that moment, the memories instantly came flooding back and I felt my face warming up. So I quickly tried to move the conversation to a different topic before it was too late. And yet, I thought of the perfect thing. He was the one that started the kissing stuff anyway. He forced me out of my body to talk crap about Scarlet. So I started unloading my anger on him from that. Yes, which began when you forced me out of my body. Why the hell would you do that?
Because I want you to make sense of him. If you would have said what you wanted to, you would have gotten into a bigger argument.
But now you just willingly lied to my boyfriend about my feelings. That's not at all how I feel about the situation.
But yet that is how you felt about it.
What the hell are you talking about? The stuff between Damien and Scarlet happened years ago. Why would that matter at this point in time?
Because of the way Scarlet has treated him and you since then. That most certainly isn't right for a person to do, whether or not she still likes him. Your body was rightfully angry about the situation along with me. What I said was what your body was thinking.
Then why did you take control of my body, Darius? There was no need to do so.
So you didn't get cold feet about wanting to truly say how you feel. I know you would have responded differently and tried to brush it away. But you seriously need to have a sit down with her and talk. This isn't okay, and she needs to understand that.
As Darius was explaining things, I found him to be right. My body started becoming angry while my mind filled with nasty comments. Just like the ones he said aloud earlier today. So with that in mind, I spoke, trying to breathe deeply. Okay, I believe you. But please, don't do that again unless I give you permission. It's not fun switching abruptly, and I am still not used to walking around in my demon spirit.
I know. Will do. But you're gonna have to get used to it eventually.
Darius, I know, but... And I paused mid-sentence. I was scared to say the next sentence for some reason. But how was I supposed to get used to it? I am still human and living. That spirit thing scared me. It constantly made me think about how I looked like evil to the rest of the world. A being that was supposed to prey on the innocent according to my religion. Yet Darius never did. I mean, he was forced to with his deal-making job, but never had he once tried to set me up for ruin. All of it has been done by Satan himself. I continued sitting in my computer chair as Darius sat on the edge of the bed. He extended his hand out to place it underneath my chin. Then, he gently lifted it up, making sure I was okay with him doing so. I allowed it, and made my eyes make visual contact with his.
I know, it's scary. But you're not a monster within that form. Do you consider me a monster?
No, I said shamefully.
Exactly. You're only a monster if you make yourself one. Looks can be very deceiving. However, personality is what defines people.
I nodded my head after that, confirming I agreed with it. I have stressed that for years when it came to my life. But now I felt foolish. I didn't take that into consideration when I met Darius. Once that idea popped into my head, I think Darius heard it and started to move the conversation to a different topic.
Let's not dwell on that right now. Let's instead talk about your little couch session with Damien.
What about it? I said, getting embarrassed. Wasn't this personal information? Well, I mean, I have been living with this demon for months now. What was considered private anymore?
That was some kiss he gave you.
It was just an ordinary kiss he always gives me. Nothing super special happened with it. I stated, trying to lie. I didn't want to talk about what happened to me or dwell on the subject for too long. The sensations would come back and make me act out. However, he wouldn't let the subject go.
Abby, even I was in your body for a little bit when that kiss initiated. As gross as it was for me, that was a lot more than just a kiss for you. Did that lead into anything?
Upon his question, I felt my face starting to warm up as my heart started beating faster. I needed to respond quick to get the topic out of my head. No, it was just a kiss. After that, Darius gave me a glare and raised his eyebrow. I knew he didn't give in to my lie, but I still didn't want to tell him. But yet within a moment I was forced to. As the silence started rising between us, my vision became blurry and I had muffled sounds playing in my head. I tried to look at my demon to see if he was experiencing the same thing, but it was too late. My sight was filled with the recalled memory of Damien and I on the couch. My ears were listening to kissing sounds and shuffles. As the memory played, it exposed every piece of action that happened. The hand laying on my waist and cheek, his gentle fingers caressing down to grab a hold of my breast, my body starting to squirm with unknown feelings. Everything played until the part where my dad walked in. Then, it fast-forwarded to the session with me on his lap. It displayed the neck kiss and my reaction to it. The feelings swirling within my body and not letting go. However, It fast-forwarded one last time to show the goodbye kiss as he thrusted me into him. After that, though, everything stopped, and my vision and hearing were restored. As I was trying to recollect myself, I realized that the sensations within my body were back again. The tingling, the knots, the clouded headspace, everything. My thighs squeezed together to try and keep my emotions at bay while stilling my body. I heard Darius huff and puff in shock, so I moved my head to tilt it towards him and confront him about what just happened. What the hell did you do to me?
Again, I didn't do anything. That happened on its own. I still have the ability to view your memories. Even if that means it happens at random like this, I guess.
I continued to try and breathe deeply to calm myself down. However, nothing was changing. My body kept responding to the memory and I couldn't focus on anything else. I felt my body was burning up and my heart was racing. Damien was lingering in my head and I didn't know how to get him out.
Well, now, someone was searching for Venus.
What the heck are you talking about? Venus is in outer space.
No, that's not what I meant. I'm just saying that he fluffed your pillows.
Darius, what is that even supposed to mean? After that phrase, Darius started to stare at me with the most flabbergasted look I have ever seen. His piercing red eyes stared at me wildly while his eyebrows were scrunched and raised. His body stayed still while his head kept double-taking the sight of me. Eventually, he took off his sunglasses as if it was obstructing the visual on his face. His mouth opened slightly while he continued his charade. Yet I still wasn't amused by it. What? It's not my fault you're using old lingo that I never heard of before. He then brought his hand up to his closed eyes and started pinching the skin on the bridge of his nose.
Abby, those are sexual innuendos. They basically mean you two were getting sexual. You seriously don't know what is happening to you right now? Don't lie to me either.
I hesitated for a second, not wanting to answer him. My legs continued to shake and clench as I felt him gaze at me from head to toe. I really didn't know what was happening. I've never had trouble with myself like this before. I had a feeling that I wasn't going to have a choice telling Darius. With my silence and his observation of me, my answer was clear.
Okay. I didn't think I was gonna have this talk with you ever, but here we go.
He took in a deep breath to prepare himself. Afterwards, he leaned himself forward to place a hand on my knee. Once he was ready, he gazed at me and spoke.
I know this is going to be uncomfortable for you to listen to, but you have to pay attention because it's actually happening to you right now. It's not the greatest position to be in, as you are a female and I am a male. However, I will explain this to the best I can without making it extremely weird. You know what sex is and all that, but you don't know the feelings behind it because you have never experienced them yourself. Well, those sensations that you felt during your time with Damien and what you're currently feeling correspond with turn-ons. But to put it in simple terms, you're horny.
No, I said before he could go any further. No, I can't be that. I'm not like that. That's not natural for me to feel at all.
Everyone feels it at some point in their life, especially when it comes to baby making, if you catch my drift. It even happened to me when I was human. I don't deal with it anymore because of, well, I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
He said, gesturing to himself at the end.
But these feelings are okay. They show that you really love him. This is completely natural for people to feel. Even the most innocent people like yourself. I'm sure Damien felt it too.
How do you know?
Because of him throwing you on his lap.
That didn't mean anything, Darius. We were almost caught kissing on the couch.
Abby. He was trying to hide his turn on. When a male gets like that, their undercarriage erects and gets hard. He threw you on top of him to hide his bulge poking through his pants. It isn't very polite to show a boner in front of your dad, but with the interaction with your father, his turn on went away.
Strangely, at that moment, everything started to click. As much as I was uncomfortable talking about this subject with my demon, everything came to light. He really did like me, and apparently I really liked him. Yet I still didn't want to be like this with Darius around. So I decided to end the conversation by saying, "Okay, I get it. I'm very uncomfortable, so can we please talk about something else?"
If you really want to, but the topic that comes after this isn't a fun one.
He said, rubbing his neck nervously. "Oh, what now? Did you gain another power?"
No, at least not to my knowledge. But I do know that Satan is planning something.
"What?" I screamed. "What exactly is he planning? Why does he have to interfere with this partnership?" However, I was hoping Darius was going to explain his statement, so I sat in silence, waiting for him to respond.
This has been Chapter 3, Halloween Mayhem, from the book The Forbidden Truth. Tune into the next video for Chapter 4. Thank you for listening.